Between ultramodernity and tradition, mixing ancient style and innovation, Tokyo, the capital of Japan, is to be discovered, admired, and visited. A gigantic city which combined harmony and refinement with the perfect mix of illuminated skyscrapers and historical and ancient temples. Tokyo is also the gateway to the world's third largest economy and a welcoming land for many Africans. Among them is Dr. Seng Fai, a native of Yengele in the commune of Niakhar in west-central Senegal. Head of the North American section at the Diplomatic Training Institute of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, Seng Fai is also a professor of English since 2011 at the Graduate School of Public Policy of the prestigious University of Tokyo.
C'est une vie assez intéressante, je crois.
My life in Japan is quite fine, I can say, even though it was hard at the beginning when I arrived because I did not speak Japanese. But little by little and with personal efforts, I managed to be able to speak the language. I think once you speak a language, then you can adapt yourself to that new cultural context. Concerning my work, I'm totally satisfied. I can say that I'm even surprised because the government of Japan awarded me a distinction last summer, which is the Order of the Sacred Treasure, gold raised with the neck ribbon, and I'm very proud of that.
Avec ruban de cou, donc j'en suis très fier.
Dr. Fai has a rich academic and professional background of some 40 years. After serving as a tenured French professor at the Diplomatic Training Institute of the U.S. Department of State in Washington, D.C., he took the decision to leave the U.S. for Japan in 1992, a challenge that has proven to be successful 30 years later.
Avant de venir ici, on m'avait dit.
Before, I was working at the World Bank. When I decided to leave this position, people asked me, "What are you going to Japan for?" Once in Japan, as you know, Japanese people are a bit introverted. I needed to adapt to that new environment first. I asked myself, why should I listen to people who may have had a negative experience of Japan and wanted to apply it on me like an apostle preaching the bad word? I finally made the decision to come. And the consequence is that I'm very satisfied today.
Je suis très satisfait.
We're leaving the University of Tokyo for the premises of Nafken Associates Group, located in an industrial park in Yashio, Saitama Prefecture, about 30 minutes drive from Tokyo. Dismantled vehicles, engines, and waste electrical wires are piled up in the company's recycling plant. The boss of the place is Kennedy Fintan Naji. Originally from Nigeria, this entrepreneur is the head of several companies in Japan as well as in his home country.
I have lived in Japan here for 30 years. I'm into recycling of rare metals and also into investing in IT technology. So we've invested from translation to shipping, from shipping to recycling, from recycling to IT. And we're still investing up to now. Yeah.
After arriving in Japan in 1992 for studies, Kennedy Naji established Nafken Associates in late 1999, specializing in the import and export of Japanese used auto parts and electronics. After the enactment of the automotive recycling law in Japan in 2005, Kennedy Naji successfully started recycling plastic, copper, steel, and automotive parts.
Japan developed a system where you receive a car, you report to the government that you have received the car. You remove the gas from the car because that gas, causes global warming. Store it in a kind of canister, and then you dissect the cars. The main concept here is we separate the cars to remove every rare metal that is in the car. Then the remaining ones, the body of the car, everything will now be crushed use magnetic systems to separate both from the aluminium, from the metals, from the steels, and everything.
The African community in Japan is diverse and varied. As Japan's leading research institute in tropical medicine, the Institute of Tropical Medicine and Global Health at Nagasaki University welcomes students and researchers from the continent.
We have lots of students from Africa. My laboratory is focusing to study and to understand the biology of malaria parasite. And we want to apply those knowledges to support to control malaria in Africa, especially malaria endemic regions. And one of the topics is to understand the drug resistance mechanisms of malaria parasite. Because if the parasite gained drug resistance, it is very bad because we cannot use our currently available drug anymore. I think it is important to train African students, especially in tropical disease area, because this is their own problem, right? So they cannot expect the support forever. So they have to develop by themselves. So in order to build the capacity, they need to think and then develop the tools to solve those problems by themselves.
Most of them are scholarship holders of the ABE initiative, the African Business Education Initiative for Youth. These young Africans are discovering a new environment and a new work culture.
I chose to come here because Nagasaki University has a good reputation for infectious diseases. So it's one of the well-known universities in this field. So I thought I would get good knowledge for me to be able to use it in the future in my work. So then I decided to choose to come here.
One of the things that we look forward to is acquiring skills here and then taking them back home. Unfortunately, back home, the level of science is not up at par with this place, but acquiring as much knowledge as possible is the best thing. Then you go home and hopefully either work in a research institute or be able to pass the knowledge to the young upcoming researcher or scientist. Yeah.
Japan is a country renowned for the legendary discipline of its people, its almost natural resilience, but also for its very high level of technical and scientific development. This is the answer to the high expectations of young African professionals in training at Nagasaki University.
The main difference in Kenya and Japan is that Kenya government, even though they try to fund research, but minimal, they don't fund research. You can find, given example where I work, like Cambridge, they encourage to give a young scientist maybe around 2 million. To me, which I'm finding is not sufficient, but I think it's like the government is trying to improve research as compared with the Japan, whereby the government fund research with a lot of money, and also given that they also encourage private companies to work with the research institute or the universities, so they do collaboration. But in Kenya or even Africa, I think that is lacking so much.
Nagasaki University in itself, it's one of the most renowned institutions that deal or research in tropical medicine, which has been my research interest ever since my undergraduate days. And also the institute in Nagasaki University is focused on malaria, has a very good lab focused on malaria, which I happen to work in. And malaria, as we know, it's one of the neglected tropical diseases still ravaging Africa. So that is why I chose to come to Nagasaki.
Japanese people have a mindset with a high culture of labor. They work a lot. Sometimes we leave the laboratories a bit late, and as students we have two experiences to make. For example, you need to change some frames of your work depending on the plasmodium placements. If you put it a bit late, you will be obliged to stay there for the night to change them, etc. And in this case, you will always see someone working in the corner.
Et vous trouverez toujours quelqu'un dans le coin qui travaille, vous n'êtes pas seul au labo.
In recent years, Japan-Africa relations have gained momentum, particularly in terms of increased economic exchanges. TICAD, the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, is an opportunity to strengthen this partnership. And a few days before the 8th edition of this conference, which will be held for the second time on the African soil in late August in Tunis, we met with the Tunisian ambassador to Japan to review this important event.
Je peux vous dire que la Tunisie est totalement prête à accueillir le sommet TICAD 8.
I can tell you that the Tunisian government is ready to host the TICAD 8 by putting all available means to guarantee a success for this summit. As you know, Tunisia was chosen in 2020 to host this TICAD 8 summit. We immediately started acting with Japan and the other co-organizing countries.
Avec le Japon, mais aussi avec les autres co-organisateurs.
Tunisia and Japan have long-standing relations which cover almost all areas of activity, from academic cooperation to culture, industry, trade, and high technology. Sign of the vitality of this economic partnership, Japan has become the third foreign investor in Tunisia in the first half of 2021.
Les relations diplomatiques ont été établies.
Our diplomatic relations with Japan started back in 1956, just 3 months after our independence in March of the same year. Our axes of cooperation are in the sectors of economy, science, human resources training, and culture, to name but a few.
Pour ne citer que quelques exemples.
Living in Japan for over a decade, the Tunisian diplomat is in a good position to appreciate the relationships between the continent and his country of residence. And to the question of how African countries could be inspired by the Japanese model, his answer sounds like an obvious one.
La première chose, c'est la résilience.
The first thing is resilience. As you know, Japan is very often hit by natural disasters like earthquakes. I remember again the triple disaster of March 2011, but Japanese people have had that culture of effort and resilience in constructing what has been destroyed and to face difficulties. The second characteristic is hard work, and I think hard work is not a secret for anybody. They know how to work continuously in an organized manner. There is here the notion of kaizen, which is an organizational method of work here. The third point is harmony between history and modernism.
L'histoire et la modernité.
In a context of global health, economic, environmental, and geostrategic challenges, Japan is positioning itself more than ever as a key partner of Africa to ensure human security and sustainable development. And there is no doubt that Africans in Japan will make a significant contribution to strengthening the relationship between their host country and their homeland.